When you hear the word elf, what comes to mind? Is it a majestic warrior standing tall against the darkness, or a tiny creature making toys in a winter wonderland? The truth is, elves are among the oldest and most versatile beings in human mythology, but they weren't always the friendly characters we see in modern media. Thousands of years ago, they were feared as powerful, unpredictable spirits. To understand how they evolved into the ultimate fantasy archetype, we have to look at their true origins, their biology, and how modern pop culture completely reinvented them. To find the true origin of the elf, we must travel back over 1,000 years to the freezing landscapes of Scandinavia during the Viking Age. In Norse mythology, elves, or alfar, were not small, and they certainly did not make toys. They were powerful, semi-divine beings, associated with magic, immense beauty, and the gods themselves. The ancient Norse split them into distinct categories. The Ljósalfar, or light elves, lived in Alfheimr, a realm of pure, blinding light. They were described as being fairer than the sun to look upon. On the other end of the spectrum were the Dúkalfar, or dark elves, who lived deep underground and were closely linked to what we now think of as dwarves. The Vikings held them in high regard, even performing secret domestic sacrifices called the Alfablot, to ask the elves for healing and prosperity. To the ancient Norse, elves were a vital, breathing part of the spiritual world, representing the raw, untamed forces of nature. As centuries passed and folklore evolved, the appearance and biology of the elf became more defined. The most iconic physical trait of an elf is, without a doubt, their structure, specifically their ears. Unlike human ears, elven ears are elegantly pointed, tapering upward. In ancient folklore, this distinct shape symbolised their close connection to nature and animal instincts, acting like antennas to the spiritual world. Along with their ears, elves are universally defined by their otherworldly beauty. They are typically depicted as tall, slender, and graceful, with sharp, flawless facial features, clear skin, and hair that seems to catch the light perfectly. They possess an ethereal aura that makes them look both captivating and dangerous. This beauty is often paired with physical perfection, possessing enhanced senses, agelessness, and a near-total immunity to human diseases. Because of this immense power and beauty, human stories have always questioned their morality. Are elves good or evil? The historical answer is complicated because elves do not adhere to human laws. In early Anglo-Saxon and British folklore, elves shifted from godlike beings into mischievous hidden spirits. If a human or a farm animal suddenly fell ill, medieval people blamed it on elf-shot, believing invisible elves had shot them with tiny magical arrows. If you woke up with tangled hair, it was called an elf lock, a sign that spirits had played tricks on you while you slept. Therefore, they weren't inherently evil, but they were incredibly vengeful and unpredictable. If you respected them, they could bless you with good fortune and healing. If you offended them or crossed into their territory, they would curse your crops, steal your cattle, or lure you into the woods, never to be seen again. They operated on a level of cosmic neutrality, protecting their own kind above all else. This ancient complexity is exactly what inspired modern fantasy, heavily influencing how they are portrayed in major films today. Consider how elves are represented across iconic media. In The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, we see the traditional high elves at the peak of their lore. Characters like Elrond and Galadriel are ancient, wise, immortal, and deeply connected to the natural world. They represent the noble, tragic side of elven history, beings who are slowly fading from the world but still possess unmatched grace and magic. Then, if we look at The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, we see a completely different side of elven society. The wood elves of Mirkwood, led by King Thranduil and championed by Legolas, show us the fierce, isolated and highly protective nature of the species. They are deadlier, more aggressive, and deeply untrusting of outsiders, willing to wage war to protect their borders. As shown in movies like Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, we see the sheer variety of fantasy lore, sometimes by challenging what we expect an elf to look like. For instance, many viewers look at the character Doric, with her pointed ears and deep connection to nature, and assume she is a classic wood elf. However, looking closer at her structure reveals small horns on her head, because she is actually a tiefling, a completely distinct race born from fiendish ancestry. Instead, the true elven representative in the main party is Simon, the anxious sorcerer who is a half-elf. By including these distinct heritages, the universe of Dungeons and Dragons breaks away from the old stereotype that all magical, pointed-eared characters are stoic, flawless, and identical. It shows that in role-playing lore, elven bloodlines are just one small part of a massive, diverse world of unique species and personalities. As elves and humans interacted across these different fantasy worlds, a unique subspecies emerged, the half-elf. Born from the union of a human and an elf, half-elves carry the traits of both heritages, which often leaves them caught between two entirely different worlds. Physically, they inherit the best of both sides. They possess the athletic grace and slightly pointed ears of their elven parents, but they maintain a sturdier build and a shorter, more human lifespan. Culturally, half-elves often face a deep sense of isolation. To humans, they live for centuries and appear distant and magical. To immortal elves, they age too quickly and appear fragile. However, this unique position makes them incredible diplomats, wanderers, and heroes, as they can bridge the gap between the two mortal races. The environments where these beings live are just as magical as they are. Elves traditionally reside in realms deeply intertwined with nature or hidden from mortal eyes. In mythology, they inhabited places like Alfheim or the mystical mounds of Celtic lore. In modern fantasy, they build breathtaking cities that blend seamlessly into giant forests such as Lothlorien and Rivendell. These places are sanctuaries of art, starlight, and ancient knowledge. However, these beautiful homelands have also been the stages for catastrophic conflicts. Throughout fantasy history, whenever the balance of the world shifts, elves find themselves at the center of brutal wars. From the legendary siege of Barad-dûr, where elven archers stood alongside men to defeat the Dark Lord Sauron, to the Battle of the Five Armies beneath the Lonely Mountain, elven warfare is a sight of terrifying beauty. They fight with unmatched synchronization, utilizing legendary elven weapons like longbows forged from ancient wood and silver swords that glow in the presence of evil. To truly understand the impact of this race, one only needs to look at the well-known elven names that have left a permanent mark on culture. Names like Legolas Greenleaf, the legendary archer whose agility and tracking skills defined the modern fantasy warrior. Elrond, half-elven, the wise lord of Rivendell, who chose the path of immortality and guided the free peoples of Middle-earth. Galadriel, the Lady of Light, whose immense magical power could resist the darkest temptations. And Arwen Undomiel, the evening star, who famously chose a mortal life out of love for a human king. These names represent the core themes of the elven identity: duty, immortality, sacrifice, and an enduring connection to the magic of the world. From ancient Norse gods ruling realms of light, to mischievous medieval spirits causing illness in the night, and finally to the epic bow-wielding heroes of modern cinema, the evolution of the elf is a testament to the power of human storytelling. They represent our deepest desires for perfection, immortality, and a closer connection to the natural world around us. Whether they are guarding an ancient forest or fighting on the front lines of a cinematic war, elves remind us of a time when the world felt a little more mysterious, and the deep woods still hid secrets just out of sight. Share your thoughts on your favourite type of elf in the comments below, and consider liking and subscribing for more deep dives into the history behind your favourite fantasy universes.